Hey everyone, just a few quick things before we get started. Don't forget to sign the attendance sheet. It's just real simple. Just ask you 2 questions. Kind of looks like this. But that's pretty much it. Please enjoy. Hope you all learned something. Alright, hello everybody. So this is going to be worksheet where we learn about selection sort. And if y'all have any questions about anything, y'all always feel free to stop by my office hours. And this one's going to be pretty short because it's just selection sort. But let's get started. Okay, so the first question I have is, what is the basic idea for selection sort? And so what selection sort does is it scans the array that you're sorting, starting at element 0, and it locates within the element the smallest value, and then it swaps the smallest value with the element that it first started scanning with, so 0 in this case, and then it continues where it starts at 1 and searches the rest of the array, finding the smallest value and swapping them until it reaches the end of the array, and thus all the elements are sorted. So if we wanted to put that in words, we could say, selection sort scans the array starting at 0 and finds the element finds the smallest element, or finds the element with the smallest value. Then it swaps that element with element 0. Well, let's say with the element it started scanning. Then it decreases the array leaving out the values that it has swapped, and continues until it reaches the end. Okay, so this may seem a little confusing, so I'm just kind of going to run through it real quick with a fake array. So we'll have an array of, I think this is going to be 9. Yeah, so 9. And we'll just enter in whatever numbers we want. Okay, so now if we were going through it, what it would happen is it would start with 0 and be like, okay, 0 is 6. And then it would find the smallest one it would check each one of these, find the smallest. So it would determine that 1 would be the smallest. And then it would swap 6 with 1. So this would become 1, and this would become 6. And then it would search these for the smallest. Realize that 2 was the second one after that. So it would swap 2 with 7. And then it'd search these. Realize that 4 is the smallest, so it'd leave it because it's already there. Then it would search these. Find out 5 is the smallest, so it would swap 5 with 9. Then it'd search these. 6 is the smallest, so it could stay. Then it would search these, and 7 is the smallest, so it would switch with 10. Right? And then it'd search these. 8's the smallest, so 8 switches with 10. And then search these. 9's the smallest, so it stays. And then 10's the last one, so it breaks. And that's essentially how selection sort works. Okay, let's go over some of the basic variables within selection sort. So we're obviously going to need an array, which is kind of given. Okay, and then we're also going to need a minimum, like a smallest variable, right? So you keep track of which one's the smallest as you're searching through the array. And then we're going to need like the smallest index as well, right? So, and you can call this whatever you want. Like we can put like, call this one min index. Oh, we'll do smallest index. And essentially that's going to be it. We're going to need some more variables within loops. But we can go over that once we get to the loops itself. Alright. And if you were making selection sort a function, which you probably should, what would you make the parameters for it be? Okay, well, obviously we're going to need to pass the array in. So we can do, we'll have, and I don't know, maybe an integer array. And we'll also have, you can also pass the size of the array to make things a little easier. And so what type of function would we use? Well, let's think about this. So the purpose of selection sort is just to sort the array. Unlike the search functions, it doesn't need to return a value, or once like it finds something, because it's not searching for anything. It's just sorting. So this means that we don't really need to like give back anything, so we can allow this to be a void function. And it will still change the array that you pass in the main code, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so how do you swap two elements in an array? You can't very well just be like A is equal to B and then B is equal to A, because at this point A is no longer equal to the original value of A, right? So you swap two elements in an array by using a temporary variable. Yeah, and you can create so it's typically going to want to be the same data type as the two variables you're swapping, and you can just create it right then and there. Okay, so let's let's say, okay, so by using a temporary variable, you can set one variable equal to temporary. What you want to do. That makes it sound. So you want to set the temporary variable equal to one of the variables, and then take that same variable and set it equal to the new to the other variable, and then set the other variable equal to the temp. And so that wording kind of sounds kind of confusing, so let's go code this like a swap function. Okay, so we don't really need to return anything, so we'll make it a void, but we do want the variables to change, so we will need the and signs. So we'll have int a and int b, Alright, and so we need to start off by using a temporary variable, right? We need to start off by creating a temp. So we'll do int temp, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to set the temp equal to one of the variables. So then we take, you can do it in the same line actually. Temp is equal to, let's say, a, and then we want to take the same variable and set it equal to another variable, to the other variable. So now we want to take a and set it equal to b, and so we start with the same variable you set it equal to temp with, because the original value is stored in temp, so you don't have to worry about losing the original value. Okay, and then so now you want to set the other variable equal to the temp. So now we want to set b equal to the temp, which was a, right? And so this is essentially how you code a swap function. And remember, because of the and signs, it's going to change the variables in whatever code, whatever you called it from. Okay, and so now that we have swap, let's actually code selection sort itself. Okay, and so let's just go back up to remember what selection sort does. So selection sort scans the array, finds the element with the smallest value, swaps the element with the element it started scanning, then decreases the array, leaving out the values that it has swapped, and continue until it reaches the end. And so we set some basic variables. We're going to need an array, a smallest, and a smallest index. We also said that it will be a void function, and it will take the parameters of an array and size. So let's start with that. So we'll start with a void selection sort, and then it should take, we said, an array, oops, and then the size of the array. Okay, and so we also said that the other variables we would need would be like a minimum value and the index for the minimum value, or smallest, whichever one you prefer to use. Okay, and so now we have to scan the array, right? Which means we gotta go through the array. So that means it's time for, you guessed it, a for loop. Yay! Okay, and then so we're actually not gonna start it on I, though you could. We're gonna use the word start in this case. So we're still gonna set it equal to 0, right? Because we want to start scanning at 0. And so we're gonna do start less than size minus 1, right? Because in this case, once there's only one element left, you don't need to check to see if that element is the smallest, because it's the only element left, which means it's going to be the biggest. So you don't even need to worry about scanning the last element. Okay, and then we can have start plus plus to go through the array. Alright, and then so now within that for loop, we can have, what we'll do is we need to set the minimum value. We need to find the minimum value. One way to find the minimum value, well, actually the way to find the minimum value is to set the minimum value equal to whatever you start with, right? So if we set min equal to start, and then we'll also consequently min index equal to start. Actually, sorry, this should be array of start, right? Okay, and then so what this allows you to do is, if what you start with is the smallest value, then you don't need to change it. But let's say you're going through the array to find the smallest value, and you run into another value that's smaller. So in which case you would need to switch it. But the thing is, we're not done with this in a sense, but because if we only use this one for loop, we're only gonna go through the array once, right? but we need to go through the array each time to find the smallest and then swap it with the beginning elements in order to sort the array. So that means that we're going to have a nested for loop. Yay! Oh, okay. And then you can call it these whatever you want. Just make like I, J, start, or whatever. Just make sure you know which one's which. I'm gonna call this one index. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it equal to start plus 1. Because of this, we don't need to check start because that's our baseline, right? We're gonna start with this value of the array at start being the smallest value, because what we want to do is we want to compare that to every other value in the array. Okay, so and then we do index is less than size, and then index plus plus. All right. And so now here is where we want to check. So we got to use an if statement. Check to see if array of index is smaller than the minimum value. Oh, we just have a min. Okay. So if this is true, right? So if the array of index is smaller than the minimum value, that means that that is the new minimum value. So then we take min and we set it equal to array index. And if that changes, the minimum index needs to change as well. So min index becomes equal to index. Okay, and then we can close off that if statement, and we can close off this for loop. And then so that means that this has found the minimum value through the entire array, because it's, well, the minimum value of the entire array that we're searching, right? So the partial of the array we're searching. So it's found the minimum value of the entire array. So now we need to swap it with what we started with. Okay, so now we can call the swap function that we have up here, right? And we'll let that do our dirty work. So we can swap the array of min index, yeah, with array start. Oops, I didn't close the bracket over here. And then we can close the for loop and then close the function. Alright, now let me just show you what that would look like right here if we didn't use the function. So I'm just going to code it a little down here so you don't get confused. So if you didn't use the function over there, what you'd have to do is you'd have to have a temp variable, right? So temp is equal to array min index so that's almost done. Okay, and then array of min index would be equal to array of start, and then array of start would be equal to temp. Okay, and that's how you would code that right there instead of the swap function. But you can do either way. Right? And so that's essentially how you code selection sort. So remember with selection sort, you want a double for loop because you're going to have to go through the array each time that you're swapping the elements, and you need to swap almost every element in the array unless it's already the smallest. Okay, and so I have here a visualization for this sorting method. And so this website has a few different sorting methods. Duncan only teaches you selection sort. You can check out the other sorts, but if you don't want to get confused, maybe just stick with selection sort. So we'll turn on the animation speed so we can see how it goes off. Go at the beginning and we'll do selection sort. So let me actually go back so we can go. Okay, let me press it again. Okay, so it started off with, let me see, step back. Okay, so it started off with 60 as its minimum, and then it was comparing it to 18. And then when it found that 18 was the minimum, it kept 18 as the minimum value. And so now it's comparing with each of these until it finds a new minimum. So right here, it's going to find 3 less than. So 3 is now the minimum value. Oh, 2 is less than 3, so 2 is now the minimum value. I'll speed it up a little bit. Alright, so now 1's the minimum value. Oops. And so, let me go back. Okay, and then so now that 1 was the minimum value and it reached the end and it realized that there was no smaller value, it swapped 1 with what was in its place, aka 60. So you can see that it swaps 1 with 60 here. And so now it's going to find the new smallest in the array. I'm just going to speed it up. So in this case, it's going to be 2, and then it's going to swap. And you can see it's 3, and then it compares 3 to 3, but it keeps the first 3 because it's less than, right? Not less than or equal to. And I'm just going to speed up a little more. And so you can see it just finds the smallest value, swaps it with the beginning, and then it keeps going. And it doesn't search these anymore, right? It starts with this as it goes. Starts with the unsorted portion of the array. Yeah, and so you can just see that baby sorted. And it goes by quicker and quicker, right? Because the unsorted portion of the array is getting smaller every time. Like, see how fast that's going? I can probably slow it down a bit, actually. Well, maybe not that much. And I'll put this link in the description of the video. So if you want to check it out, you can go there as well. Alright, and that is a sorted array. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to fill out the attendance if you haven't done that yet. Thank you all for making it all the way through this video. Here's a little way of saying thank you.